Hey everybody, how you doing? You guys there and can hear me, I hope? All right. Great, I'm glad you guys are enjoying the music. I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes, see if anybody else pops in. And Roger Hicks sent me a mix that he did, and he was having trouble getting it together. Hey Roger, glad you're here so you can comment along. Sent me a mix that he did. He was having a little trouble getting the mix sounding good. So it's a remake of a Barbara Tucker track. He got the acapellas online, and he put his own music underneath it, and he's having a hard time making it sound good. So we're going to do that today. Oh, wait a minute. You guys can't see me. How about that? Hold on a second. New software. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway, as I was saying, we're going to take a mix that one of our people in the chat room here, Roger Hicks, sent to me, and he was having a hard time getting his mix sound good. So I said, why don't we take it and put it up on the show today and see if we could pump it up. Tim Mason's asking, when are you going to teach us mixing down? Well, this is going to be it. I'm going to take this track, we're going to make it sound better, and we're going to try to get a mix out of it. Okay? So, the chat window's live. I have two big large screens here, two 40-inch screens. I'm usually looking over one screen over here when we're working. The chat room's on the other window, right? So I will try to come back to the chat window occasionally and see what you guys are saying. I want you guys to ask questions. You don't have to ask questions about this mix. If we have time afterwards, anytime we're live, you want to ask about how I recorded stuff, anything about the music business, we can do that. All right. Let's see. We got people jumping on. I got a little number thing here. We got about 18 or 20 people watching so far. We can hang on for a few seconds more. Anybody have any questions? Today we're going to take a mix, and let's see if I could show you guys what it looks like over here. This is Logic Audio. I have some grayed out tracks, and that's Roger Hicks audio files that he sent over to me, and up on top in green is his original mix. So we're going to break this down track by track, get the vocals sounding good, show you how to get vocals sounding a little bit better, how to put some reverbs on them, making things, getting things ready, and then how to mix all this stuff down. So it's asking, do you need to have your room acoustics a certain way? Tim, actually, it depends. I use headphones, and I mix everything on headphones. It's not just talking with you guys, but I use headphones. In one of the previous videos, we talked about you have to have a, hey Ray, we have to have a point of reference. So if you're mixing in a room, you don't have to have the acoustics a certain way, but you should know what your room sounds like, or know what your speakers sound like, or know what your headphones sound like. And what does that mean? You have to listen to everything in that room, not just your mixes. You can't be in a boomy room and then take your mixes somewhere else and expect it to sound great if you haven't listened to other music in the same boomy room. So once you do your setup, I like headphones because I don't have to worry about room acoustics, right? Never have to worry about it. I know what these sound like. I've been working on this shit for 40 some odd years, and I've always used headphones because I've always been in places where noise has been a problem. Neighbors, people sleeping late at night. So if I use headphones, then I know my point of reference, but I also listen to music, I watch movies. I'm really big into virtual reality, and I got multiple headsets, and I use this, so I always know what sounds good in here. If it sounds good in here, then I can go back to Logic, and somebody just said, is Logic a Mac or PC? This is on a Mac, right? So I have a big trash can Mac Pro. It's got 12 cores. If you look in the lower right-hand side, there's a little white window with blue things jumping up and down. In the lower right-hand corner, let's see, above my, I got to figure this out, over there. trying to do this in a mirror. Right there's a little green numbers. That's my RAM that I have. I have 16, 32 bigger RAM here, I think. And the blue is, there's 12 independent computer chips in there, cores. So I have 12 computers working on this simultaneously. How long have I been using Logic? I have been using Logic. It used to be part of a company called eMagic in Germany, and since I had my 512 Mac, my Mac Plus, and it had a little dongle that hung out of the back. Somebody asked me if I'm at home. I have 2 homes, and I'm in one of them right now. And I do stuff out of the phones. Tim, good headphones. These are Sony MDR Studio headphones. They don't have to be Sony's. I tell people to stay away from what they call DJ headphones because they have a lot of bass and a lot of treble that are accented. So when you're in a club, you could find beats by pushing it against your ear in a loud club, and you can hear the beat through the ambient noise. But they're not the greatest unless you listen to everything on those headphones, then you'll know what's happening. Okay, I guess we could probably start. All right. So let's start over here by playing Roger's track. Thank you, Roger, for sending this. Again, we're looking at Logic. On the top, it's green. That's his original mix. And the grayed out tracks are his individual tracks. Vocals, background vocals, keyboards. What do we have here? Kick track, claps, and a bass line. So let's take a listen to his track. I guess let me figure out how long this is, if we have to listen to the whole thing or not. Give me 1 second. I'm opening up what's called a secondary ruler. I'm going in here. I'm trying to get the time. I'm just going to set this. I don't know if you guys are watching on a phone. If you are, you may be able to cast this to a larger TV or high-def TV, so you may see a lot of this stuff in depth. We're going to be doing a lot of work here. I'm going to try to make it as big as I can whenever I can. The software does not allow me to zoom, so if you can't see stuff and you're on a little phone, you may be able to get in front of your TV. And I know on an iPhone it has that little broadcast thing, and it'll find a TV or something like that in your home or wherever you are, and might be able to broadcast the image up to it. Please, if you can, I don't care if it's earbuds, please use headphones, because some of the adjustments we're going to make are very, very subtle, right? And if you're listening to it on phone, you're not going to be able to hear it as great. So if you have earbuds, throw them in, because there's going to be some subtle differences here that you should know about, all right? If you're listening on a pad or on a laptop, hit that full screen so you can see what's going on. Okay, let's listen to Roger's track. We'll do some comments a little later. This is a Barbara Tucker track. So this is a Barbara Tucker track. She's what I call a dance diva. She does a lot of this soulful, vocals and stuff. She probably did her own background vocals too. She's got an amazing voice. I've DJ'd hard tracks a lot and usually brings a lot of people to the dance floor. Right? He got the acapellas online. If you guys ever need acapellas for songs, you could just go to YouTube and type in acapella, you know, and everything will come up. Rolling Stones, Queen. It's a great way to practice. Great way to do mixes. And then there's this YouTube downloader. I think it's for PC and Mac. And you can actually set it just to download the audio portion of a video that's playing. Or you could, on a Mac, I think on Windows you have Snagit. I don't remember if that's still around. On our Mac we have something called Audio Hijack. It's a couple of bucks. I'll see if I can open this up. Let's do all this later. Remind me later. Let's do all this later. This is a little program that you could set up. And this program will capture audio from any application. And it'll tell you, these are the applications that I have right now running, actually. I don't have Chrome running. I have these running and the ones up here. You choose an application. You choose whether you need to boost the volume. What do you want to record it to? A WAV file, or this is saving to the desktop so I can find it. And do you want a WAV file or an MP3 file? And you'll be able to then import that a cappella track into your digital audio workstation and get stuff working. Barbara's awesome. DJ should know her, yes. It's not Masters of Work, it's Little Louie Vega, right? So whether he did it with a Masters of Work thing, I don't know if it was part of that series, but this is it. Okay, so there's an intro on this. There's a verse, there's a chorus, there's a verse, a double chorus, and then it sort of just goes into the outro. If you're a DJ, it's kind of a familiar thing. We're not going to do an extended mix. I don't want to really, I'm not going to touch much of his mix, because here's a big thing. As a remixer, well, there's a difference. As a mixer, without the re in front of it, you're taking somebody's music and you're just making it sound better. Even though you want to get in there and you want to change it, I actually spent an hour or two, and I'll open up a different file where I added my own stuff to it and show you the difference. But he sent me the file, and if he was hiring me, which he's not in this case, and you know, but if he was hiring me, I'm strictly here to mix the song and make it sound good, whether I like the arrangement or not. This arrangement is fine, it needs help, right? And that's why we're doing this. So we're not going to change the mix, we're not going to put breaks in it, we're not going to do that kind of mixing, we're simply going to get levels even. We're going to make this sound as good as possible, right? Maybe put some reverb on it. A mixer can do that. I asked him for the files dry. He sent me these files dry. That means no reverbs on them, no compression. Well, if he recorded with compression, no EQs, because different mixers and remixers have different toys that they use, and you'll see the ones that I use in this particular case. So you wouldn't want to put reverb on something and the mixer or the remixer went, oh man, I wish there was an echo in there because I want to use it in here, and that reverb is conflicting with my $10,000 reverb, you know, and that $10,000 reverb sounds better, but he locked me into this reverb on the track that he sent me. Most digital audio workstations allow you to mute out all the effects, and then you send one file at a time from bar 1 to bar whatever it is, and you stripe them down one at a time. Roger said he was using, Roger, are you there? What were you using? Studio One, I think? I think he said he's using Studio One on a PC, and there was a way to select all, mute all the effects, and then put the, export them all as individual files into a folder. He put that up on WeTransfer. You can use Dropbox, and he sent it over to me. I downloaded it, OpenLogic, drag and dropped them in, and because in the gray stuff below, you see they all started on bar 1, beat 1. Everything is lining up. I don't have to worry about that. Studio One, there you go. And he told me it was 125 beats per minute, which I have up here at the top of my of Logic up here. I set the speed for 125. That's if I wanted to lay in additional tracks. If you're only remixing, it really, it does make a difference what the BPM is, because if you're going to do echo, 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 and you want that to be in beat with the music, you could probably find it if you don't know the BPM, but a lot of delays and things that we're going to be using do synchronize to the music. Yeah, 125 BPM. It does synchronize with the music, so you'll get your delays and beats happening in time with the pulse of the music. Okay. So, starting at the very beginning of this, I noticed the drums are kind of low, and he, rightly so, wants the vocals to be loud because they're really awesome vocals. So let's listen to the difference for a couple of seconds between the drums that come in and then the vocal, right? So here the vocals are kind of low. I'm not touching any of the volumes. And then the vocals come in. You notice kind of the drums disappear. It's not your fault, Roger. This is what we learned about. The drums in a dance track are the driving force of the track. Those drums have to be loud and present. So, in this particular case, you needed to fast forward into the loudest part of the vocals, which is, I'll play it just for a second. Yes, Martin said the drums are wide. It's not his fault, it's the sample that was used. Instead of the kick drum being right down the center and being the anchor for this mix, the drum has a very wide sound. Now, people will do that because they want their drums to sound big, but they're better. Wide is not big, all right? So if you take a listen here, the hi-hat and the clap are right down the center. If you have earbuds on and you're listening to it, the kick is left and right, and there's a minor millisecond delay. What that's doing, it's not defining that pop, all right? So let's go through these tracks one by one, and let's find his drum track, drum with claps. Here we go. I'm gonna solo this. This is his drum thing. It's this brown track here. I'm going to try to zoom this in for you guys. Wrong way. All right, there's his drums. What's the first thing? Anybody notice anything about this drum track right here? If you record audio? I'll give it a second because there's a delay. I want everybody to talk and be part of this. There's no wrong answer. There's no right. You're not gonna do anything stupid. You're not gonna say the wrong thing. Yes, they're low. Okay, this drum volume is low. One of the things I talk about is you need to do something called normalization, and all digital workstations or software have a normalizing thing. I don't know whether GarageBand does, but you can always also use an outside editor. The waveform is small, yes. It doesn't have to be mono. No, the drums don't have to be mono, Terry. They could be stereo, right? If you're building individual drums, if you're building a kick and a snare and a hi-hat, it helps to be mono because then you could pan the hi-hat up for one way, the claps could be on both sides with a space in the middle, and the drum. You only have limited, it's like vision. You only have limited places where you could put this stuff. We have a half degree of arc. We are going to normalize this, yes. So I'm going to take this track, I'm going to double click this, and down here, let me see if I bring this window up. This is what we want to normalize. You're going to see a big difference, and you're going to hear a big difference. Okay, so this is what our drums sound like now, level wise. I hope you guys have headphones on. Okay. So we're going to select all, which the software already does. How did we get to this window? We just double clicked on the waveform. If you are using Logic, click, and it'll open up this editor. This editor window will show up. Come on, software. It's running a little slow because I have the broadcast stuff running. This window will open up somewhere down here. On your software, it may pop up as a separate window. Bring this up for you guys to see. Go to Functions on Logic. You will have a command somewhere. I'm choosing Normalize. It's going to take a couple of seconds, but watch what happens. There goes the spinning beach ball. The the apple spinning beach ball of death, we used to call it back in the old days. Try to do something. And by the way, in my day, sound like the old dude, to do this on one track would take about 10 or 15 minutes, okay? This is taking 10 seconds or 15 seconds, right? We used to normalize stuff and go to lunch and come back, literally, when the very first audio. My first digital audio processing that only had two tracks was a Mac 2 CI and a was a DigiDesign or a Sound Designer interface, which was about as big as this Digitone thing over here. It only did stereo, and it took about half hour, 40 minutes to normalize maybe a track this long. Take a look at this, guys. So what a big difference. Boom is right. Yeah. All right. If you got your headphones on, I'm not going to touch the volume. You're going to notice a big difference. If you don't have normalization in GarageBand, you can use an external editor. There's, if you're on a Mac, let me see if I can find it. There's this program called Fission. It'll actually convert, you can open up your audio file into this. And you could put these little shortcuts up here or go to the menu, but I have a normalized thing here. But in Fission, you select all, and you can, where is it? Tool, where the hell is it? Under Edit. It's in here somewhere. You can normalize, all right? So that'll get it, that'll make it loud. Something very important. If you're going to send your audio files to an external editor, a lot of programs allow you to define an audio editor in one of your menus. The reason that's there is it won't change your file size, and it knows to edit it, and when it comes back to readjust the file size so you could see it in your workstation. If you are trying to normalize from GarageBand to another, to Fission, I strongly suggest you do it first. Go open up your individual files in Fission, normalize them, and then bring them into GarageBand, and they'll sound better. Well, clicking on a track and raising the volume is a little different than normalizing, and I'll tell you why. Our previous track was very very low. There's things called digital audio converters that make the sound from ones and zeros so we can hear it in our ears. If this is the bandwidth, or how wide the signal travels through a digital audio converter, if you're going here, right, you're not using the full bandwidth of a digital audio converter. If you bring the volume up, you're artificially bringing the volume up. But if you normalize, you're bringing up the lows and the highs in relationship. So you're getting actually better resolution. I've had fights with people over this. You know, you're just increasing the volume. You're actually bringing the whole dynamics of everything up. So I prefer normalizing to bringing volumes up. And I've had some professional people and some professional studios send me drums like his. Now on the other side, if you're recording, please be careful and don't go past 0. If you're not sure, it's better to capture it at a lower level and then normalize it. You risk the chance of recording it at a lower resolution because the volume's lower, but you want to get it as hot as possible without going into the red. If you've clipped it, there's not much you could do, you're screwed. On analog audio, if you clipped it, it would kind of just soften it. On digital, it crackles. You guys have heard that before. All right, we got the drums happening, right? Or at least the volume come up on this. Let's get this back down and away. Okay, now let's go back. I'm not touching any volumes, so you can hear the difference now. Wait, I may have something here. Give me 1 second. Yeah. I added a kick and I added clap. So let's go back to his thing. Okay. That's his normalized. That's his normalized drums, right? Which is this. He also has a clap and a hat topper. I went ahead and oh, this is mine. This is mine, sorry. There's his claps. Obviously the same thing. Let's normalize these claps real quick. We'll try to speed through this a little bit. I'm doing this for the benefit that people that don't know about normalization. It's important to learn. Here we go, another track that's small. Select all, hit functions, go ahead and normalize. I wanted to do this live with you guys so you could see the difference of this. I've got 12 computers in this computer, 12 cores running at once. So it's doing a lot of math. What normalization does is it finds the loudest and the softest, and it brings everything up in ratio to get the loudest there, the most bandwidth possible. All right. Sometimes you'll normalize a file, which we'll do later, and it won't be so great. All right. I don't know if you can on Logic. I like to go in and individually do it. I think there may be a command. Logic is a very deep program, and I don't dig into it that deep. There may be that possibility. Someone may know, but I don't. Right? All right, let's get this kick track over here. He has the kick fading in. This is his original kick. Let's go ahead and do that. Select all, functions normalize. Now remember, as a remixer, I shouldn't be touching his tracks even though it's fading in. I'd rather do a fade from a fader than doing it as a fade in, but you can. There's nothing wrong. There's no right or wrong way you can do this. Let's get the rest of these tracks up and running. I went in earlier and I got the vocal, the background vocals normalized and his keyboard, and I still have to do his bass line. And we're going to normalize the lead vocal, and boy, is there going to be a difference on that. Okay. Yeah, I prefer normalization over raising volume because, like I said, normalization is going to push those digital analog converters better. It's going to give you crisper high. If we're talking numbers and your audio is going through a 24-bit digital audio converter and you're only using 12 bits because your volume is low, then what about your low stuff? When you're using 24 bits of that audio converter, you're using the full bandwidth, and the lower stuff is now louder. Doesn't mean you have to have the fader louder, but all that detail, all that crispness is in there. And by normalizing it, you're bringing all of that fine, the air between the sound, I sometimes call it the sizzle on the hi-hat, that may be there, but it may be lost because of dynamics. Instead of only moving like this, it's now moving like this because it's a louder volume. There's more there for you to work with. If you're doing EQs later, there's more there to grab. All right, we need to look at a bass track here. So let's get his bass line going up here. I'm not touching volumes really. All right, cool bass line, right? It's okay. Let's take this and let's go ahead and normalize this. Where'd you go, bass line? There you go. There we go. Select all, functions, normalize, and then all we have to do is lead vocals and we can start getting some mix happening. So if you're getting a mix, if you're doing your mix, if you're getting somebody else's mix and you're in a piece of software and you can normalize, you said GarageBand doesn't have it. Or if you could, before you bring this all into GarageBand, you could take it out, normalize it in a program like Fission or some sort of editing program and bring it back in. Your mixes are going to sound punchier, more powerful, have more detail and more resolution. Look at that bass line. Wow, did it go through the roof, right? Why, yeah! Rock out with your cock out, huh? All right, we got our bass line happening. Really important for normalization is vocals. Now, in this particular case, Roger didn't have a choice of lead vocal separated from background vocals because the acapellas were a stereo mix and had some reverb in them. Okay, he did go into some of these tracks here, and I'll unmute the tracks that he did. Let's get this out of solo. Let's mute the stuff we're not using. I color-coded stuff so you could find stuff easier. I added some claps and stuff and some drums. My stuff is in yellow that I added here for your guys' convenience. His stuff is in brown. This is the drums down here. You go up a little higher. Let's get all these in colors so you can find all this stuff. All this, and let's go to, this will be less confusing for people that are not used to digital audio workstations. I'm going to go to colors here and make all the background vocals are pink. The lead vocal is red. I do this because I get lost. Let's get his, where's the keyboards? Keyboards with effects. I grabbed too many tracks. Here's his keyboard and his bass. I'm going to move this down here. So we'll make the bass purple or blue. How about blue? Yeah, and we'll make the keyboard green. No particular way, just so your eye can catch things really fast. All right. These are my percussion tracks that I added. We'll do those later. Let's mute those. All right, let's work on lead vocals. That's just such important. Here we go again. If we take a look at this, and it's not his fault. I don't know whether he recorded this or downloaded it, whoever put this up. We got lead vocals here, and they are really low in volume. So we'll take a listen for a split second. In this particular case, the lead vocal and the backgrounds have a big volume difference.
I get lifted, I get lifted every time, leaving all my cares behind. When the world is going through changes, and there's nothing left to embrace, open your mind to understanding, and maybe we can find a trace. A trace of peace, tranquility, through the music that is everywhere. Everybody, let's get together. Show peace, show joy, show love. I get lifted, I get lifted every time. When the music's on my mind, I get lifted.
So we got a lot of volume changes in this whole thing. What I do, I'll select all. I'll download these. I'll normalize everything. You're still going to see a lot of dynamics in this vocal because, remember, normalization is going to find the lowest and the highest. It's not going to change soft to loud and keep loud the same. It's going to take the soft and the loud and bring it all up. You see what it just did? But we have certain areas in here. If you take a look, like in here, for instance, that's still kind of soft, right? Down here in the middle. How do we deal with that? There's two ways to deal with it. We can deal with it with a compressor, which I'll show you, or, and this is, you better know what the fuck you are doing. You can literally, I'm going to undo it because but I can grab this piece of audio right in here, making sure I'm not grabbing anything else. I'm in the center and the bottom of the gray area if you can't follow along, and I'm going to normalize this. See that get big? Now, watch what happens if I play.
I get lifted.
Let's find that.
I get lifted. Everybody, let's.
I just lost where we are. Don't lose it. Let's undo it so I can find it again. Undo that. Hi, you little fucker. I think it's, give me, no, we're in this track. Here we go, that's why. Even I get lost on occasion. All right, it looks like it's right over here.
Lifted, I get lifted, I get lifted, 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 I get lifted, I get lifted every time, leaving all my cares behind. Lifted. No one said that life would be easy. There's gonna be some rain sometime, but don't you give up. The rain won't be forced.
If you hear the difference in that vocal right there, that lead vocal got very loud. I'm going to undo that change right now. You can literally go in there, word by word, note by note, and bring sections up. You better know what the hell you're doing, because suddenly you're going to have vocals that are like this and like that. If you don't know what you're doing, I wouldn't do it unless you have years of experience. Let's show you guys how to try to even this out. Now, on this particular track, these are the vocals that he downloaded. There is some faint reverb going on in the background. There's nothing you can do about it. Well, listen in here. You can hear some of the reverb that comes with it. You may not be able to hear it.
Mind to understanding, and maybe we can find a trace. Maybe we can find a trace. Mind to understand. Mind to.
There's some digital delay in there, but because our track is at 125 beats per minute, if we wanted to add another delay on top of this vocal, we can. There's another thing that you could do, which I'll show you in a mix I did later. I tried to separate the lead vocal from the background vocal by making a duplicate track. Okay, and I drag this down to here, and then the beginning is lead vocal, and then let's say the vocal starts somewhere over here, and then I would go up here and cut out which we're not going to do this now, but it's another way of doing this, and just say that's lead vocal here, and you can go through this piece by piece and make parts, and then it's never going to come out perfect. But for instance, you'd have the lead vocal on one track and the backgrounds on another, if they're not singing at the same time. So you see what I just did? That way I can have the lead down the center and the backgrounds on either side, or maybe they're dry and the lead vocal has reverb on it. I'm not doing that in this particular case, so let's get out of this. But those are some other ways you could try to separate backgrounds from leads. If they're not singing at the same time, put them on a separate track. Another thing you can do with this second track feature is, say you wanted the voice in the chorus. It's only a solo vocal. You wanted the voice in the chorus to be doubled. You can copy just the part of a chorus over to another track and go in. You'll have to blow the waveform up on your zoom in on your thing here. Let's zoom in. And if you offset the vocal, let's just say it's over here. My computer's running a little tight because it's doing a lot of work right now. Let's zoom in on this area in here. There's a way to double a vocal without actually having a singer sing it again. It's always best to have a singer sing it again, but if you're in a pinch, let's just take this piece of vocal out here just for a second. Let's get rid of this. Now, you notice I'm deleting stuff. On my digital audio workstation and most digital audio workstations, vocals are non-destructive. What does that mean? There's a copy of it on your disk drive, and whenever you make changes other than normalizing changes your main file. These are just reference points. These are just little stick-it notes that are telling the software to record, to start playing at this section and that section, and this is non-destructive. So in this particular case, let's get this vocal out of here. If I wanted to double a chorus of a vocal right in here, I would take this and maybe, I'm going to do an exaggerated because this is wrong, but I'm basically shifting the vocal a couple of milliseconds up to get the doubling. So it's a type of effect if I played it without. Actually, you could usually hear it right in here the best. There's a slight delay in there. If that's running in a... it probably crapped out because YouTube has stuff in there that'll it'll freak out if the volume's too loud, and it was too loud for you guys. In fact, let me bring my microphone down a little bit too. I know it's good, but just in case, I don't want to crap stuff out on you guys. Anyway, it's a cheap way of doubling vocals without having to double vocals. Let's get back to our mix, and let's try to get these main vocals. I'm going to delete this. Let's try to get these main vocals in here happening. Did you have to restart the browser? Ah, it crapped out. That I overloaded with that vocal. It overloaded the stream. The stream is it says stream resumed. Actually, I'm watching it right here. Interesting. I freaked out Google's YouTube servers. How about that? Yes, please hit the like button. That would be great. Let's go into this track and start adding some stuff. So I'm going to use the plugins first from Logic. So if you're using GarageBand Logic Studio One, they have stuff built into it. Let's get a chunk of vocal. I like to get a piece of vocal that is soft and loud. So this is going to be a piece of a verse and a chorus so we can hear the dynamic difference. We'll listen to it first.
The magic is in the music. Let the rhythm take you there. Take you there. Take off your burdens, leave them right at the door. Come on, believe, and you'll be lifted.
You can hear the big difference between the lead vocal. She sounds like she's far away, and the main vocal is right up here. We want to even that out. So using Logic's plugins, we're going to go to Dynamics Compressor. You don't need to even know what a compressor does. For now, you can go into these presets, drums, keyboard, guitars, voice, and they have a setting for a dance vocal. Great way to start. If you don't know what you're doing, this will get you there better than nothing.
The magic is in the music. Let the rhythm.
There's a little VU meter up here. Can I make this bigger? I think I can make this bigger. Yeah, look at that. Okay. You should clearly be able to see what's going on. I want this VU meter to be somewhere around the middle. This first knob is called threshold. I want to bring this up so the meter is moving and compressing.
The magic is in the music. Let the rhythm take you there. Take you there. Take off your burdens, leave them right at the door. Come on, believe, and you'll be lifted.
Did you guys notice what happened? I'm going to take the compressor off and listen to that phrase, and then I'm going to put the compressor on. Listen to the difference between the verse and the chorus. We just smoothed that out. This is verse.
Let the rhythm take you there. Take you there. Take off your burdens, leave them right at the door. Come on, believe, and you'll be lifted.
You know what, guys? I have a setting. My Wi-Fi connection is really strong. I pay for 50 up and like 250 or something down. So I have tons of bandwidth, and there's nothing streaming in the house or anything like that. So it says my streaming is live and healthy from my side. So if you're getting some weird stuff, this supposedly, not supposedly, but this gets archived again in YouTube when we disconnect, when I stop the stream. So you can always try to go back and look at it later without the glitches that you may be getting. So anyway, let's do the verse and the chorus again, just real fast. This is without the compressor. We're listening, hopefully, with earbuds for volume differences between the verse and the chorus. This is without, no compressor. Okay, let's put that compressor in and listen to it again. See how soft that is? It's more even with the vocal. Those volumes are even, the overall volume is lower. We could now go in and raise that main volume higher to get that in-your-face kind of vocal without having the difference between the low volume and the high volume. All these other buttons on a compressor, if you don't know how to work it, you shouldn't really need to worry about it right now. We used a preset of dance vocal. Yours may have studio vocal. There's all kinds of things in here. Classic rock vocals, fuzz vocal, medium vocal, narrations, vintage. You could play with all these, right? Download some a cappella vocals and see what it does when you put it on there. But basically, if you open up a compressor, don't worry about all this stuff. What you do want to worry about on the left side is an input and the right side is an output. This is the vocal coming in on the left. On the right side, it's going out. Make sure nothing's in red. My compressor here has an input gain on the lower left hand and the output gain. You don't want your vocal, any of this to be in red for two reasons. You don't want to distort. These are modules, right? This is a compressor module. You don't want to distort the module. But if you put an EQ after this, you're then, if your level is too hot, leaving this module, that it's going to distort into the next module. So you're not only distorting your compressor, you're distorting your reverb, your EQ, possibly your reverb, possibly everything else, and you're going to get that distorted vocal that's driving you crazy. Where the hell is this distorting? I can't figure out what it is. It's probably because in a module somewhere along the line, look at your inputs and outputs and make sure nothing's in red. All right, so here we are with that vocal. I brought the volume up. Let me bring it up slowly. We don't want to freak out Google and YouTube.
Let the rhythm take you there. Take you there. Take off your burdens, leave them right at the door. Come on, believe, and you'll be lifted. I can lift it. I can lift it.
Now check that. And first I can go to track, insert, vocal on track one, go to insert vocals, female vocals. I gotta put on my granny glasses. Or I'm not. Someone go to. Yes, so that's a big question right there. Do you compress first or EQ? Roger, I'll try to figure out what you're talking about, but I'm trying to smooth these vocals out right now. Do you compress first or do you EQ first? If you EQ first and you put a lot of low end in there, whenever the voice gets low, it's going to cause the volume to drop. So you can have a volume like this, and if somebody sings a low, or a high loud note, that EQ is actually, all EQ is volume in little capsules, little bands. And if you bring up a band of EQ, when that person hits that, the volume's going to come up. Well, what's the compressor going to do? It's going to bring it down. So your vocal's riding like this. Say you have an EQ bump in here, and when that happens, your compressor's going to dip down for that second until that bump goes away, and you're going to get a drop in the music. You could do pumping drums, which people do, if you want that trance or kind of effect. But for vocal, it's not great. Remember what's important. Vocals tell a story. Our ears are sensitive to voices by evolution. We hear voices, and whether you're not listening to the vocal or not, the background of your mind, subconsciously, you're listening to this voice. This voice is telling a story through a lyric. It has to be upfront and it has to be clear, right? So this compressor is helping that. Let's put a little EQ on this vocal. All right, hold on. So you can't see very well if you're on a smaller monitor. The most left-hand column has the first blue insert over here, compressor. Now I'm going to add an EQ. I'm just going to go to EQ, channel EQ. Cool. This is an equalizer in Logic. Don't worry if this doesn't look like your equalizer. All an equalizer are bands. You see these different colors? These are bands of, let me turn this on. These are bands of audio. Later on you can learn the numbers. This is 20 to 50 cycles, 50 to 100, 100 to 400, 400 to 750. You don't need to know these, but what will help is the lower the number, 20 cycles is low, 20,000 cycles is high. So if you want to grab a high frequency, you wouldn't want to look down here at 20 cycles, you would want to look up here at 20,000 cycles. The K means 1,000. So let's go listen to what I was saying in Studio One is a compression on a track. Go to the track, then click insert. Okay, yeah, okay. So let's listen to this voice. Now, we're doing a dance track. You have to think while you're doing this. What kind of a track I'm doing? If this is a person with a guitar, you may want to make it a little more present. But because this is a dance track, there's pounding drums. There's a hi-hat pss, 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 doing their, the pea soup hi-hat or whatever, and percussion. It's fighting those high frequencies. So I mentioned this in a video before, your sibilants. So I made a joke of 6 simple synthesizers. If the high frequency is muted, you're going to hear 6 simple synthesizers. What? Those S's and T's are very important. So let's start. I usually start with that. This is 10K high frequency. Let's listen to it without and then with.
Let the rhythm take you there. Take you there. Take off your burdens, leave them right at the door. Come on, believe, and you'll be lifted. I get lifted. I get lifted every time.
If you saw what I did, I took the high sibilance frequencies out. It's sharp when you listen to it by yourself, but when that's laying in the track, that's going to be so sweet, I promise you. It's artificially boosted right now, and a lot of people go, oh my God, you're boosting these high frequencies. Well, I mixed enough that I know that this is going to help it cut through a mix. If you're doing rock and roll vocals where there's heavy guitars, you're doing stuff that has heavy mid-range, it's going to, you're competing in bands. Think of stuff as low, medium, high. I think of it more like the bands you're seeing in the EQ, but low, medium, high. How do you have a bass and a kick drum and make you feel both of them, but they're both in the same sound frequency, not become muddy? Mid-range is very complicated because you have vocal and piano and a synth line and background vocals. How do you keep that all clear? You can actually punch holes and bring certain frequencies out, so the vocal is at this EQ and that the keyboard's at that EQ, not competing with the vocal. I mean, there's sweetening, or there's tweaking and massaging that you could do. You always go by your ears. It's really important. And with a good pair of headphones, you're going to hear these very subtle changes, and sometimes it's just a subtle change that'll make a world of difference. In the beginning of this, there's a little bit of a track bleeding through probably her headphones. I'll see if I can. Let me copy this for a second so we can get this EQ back. Let me flatten this EQ, and I'm going to try to accentuate it. I think it's around this cycle. Let me see if I can make this more accentuated. We're going to listen to the vocal, and it's got like a thumpy thing leaking through her headphones.
Let the rhythm take you there. Let the rhythm take you there.
You hear that? I'm starting to bring it up. Let me bring it up over here. I'm going to really make it loud.
And the music, let the rhythm take you there. Let the rhythm take you there. Take off your burdens, leave them right at the door. Come on, believe, and you.
So that's probably the original track. right? It's probably the original track. So now that I found these frequencies, this is too close to her voice. But now that I found some of these other frequencies, I actually want to do just the opposite and take it away instead of building it up. So I'm going to cut that part of the vocal out. It's practically gone. I mean, if we really turned it up, we'd hear it. But that's maybe a different set of notes than your bass line, and that's going to make a great bit of difference in clarity. If you're trying to make your bass line come out, and your bass line is going doom, 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 and their bass line on the original track is going doom, 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 doom. Even though it's in there, you're going to get this low frequency that's going to screw with your tracks. People that don't know, where did all the other tracks come from, like the drums, bass, and claps? You'd have to ask Roger. They're probably samples that he dropped in. Hey, Roger, did you go to a sample library? Is that stuff you had on your a CD? I use Logic, so Logic comes with a shitload of all kinds of samples. There's a delay, but Roger, if you can answer, that would be great. Where you got your claps from and where you got your bass line. Did you play it yourself? Did you have a sampler? You guys watch the chat room, and I'll keep moving. So I want to bring a little bit of the high frequency out for sibilants.
And you'll be lifted.
Without the EQ.
And the music, let the rhythm take you there. Take you there. Take off your burdens, leave them right at the door. Come on, believe, and you'll be lifted. I get lifted. I get lifted.
Okay, we got our vocal somewhat sounding better than it was before, which is great because I have 150 gigabytes of sounds I load. Okay, so he loads it into his MK3 sampler and does it that way. So Native Instruments Mark III. Okay, there's something, if you go back, I think it's the first or second thing that I put up, there's something called SoundCloud. You could bring it into your sampler. You could search for all kinds of drum loops and bass lines and guitar lines online. I show it to you in one of the earlier episodes that I did. I think it's the first or second. Loop Cloud, I'm sorry. And you can actually shop online for samples, and they're very cheap, like $1 or $2 for a drum loop, or you could buy a whole sample CD. And while your track is looping like this, you can go in and test out different drum loops. If you have Logic like I do, other programs, they have loop libraries built in, and all right, I'll show you real fast. I go in here, and I'm going to loop this around, and I'm going to find, let's set this for beats. Where is it? Beats are right over here. This is going to pull up beats. I'm going to pull up stuff that's easier to work with. Okay, I'm going to audition different drum tracks. So there's a lot of variety, a lot of ways, but this is now remixing a track, and because we're taking Roger's track and mixing it, we wouldn't be doing that as a mixer. We're a mix engineer right now, we're not a remixer. But as a remixer, yeah, you could do that. One of the things I did here is Roger's got a track with a kick underneath here. Let me find this. I didn't think the kick was strong. if you hear the vocals down the center, the kick is on either side, it doesn't define it as much. So what I did, and here's a trick that I use. Let's go back to the beginning of the track. I'll blow this up so you guys can see it. I'm making my own drum loop. You can use your sampler. I have, you know, it's funny, guys. I bought, grab this thing here. I bought Machine Studio. I never actually use it. I actually use just the software part of it. But you can sit here by Machine Studio and tap your beats in. It'll trigger samples. This has nothing in it. All this is like a MIDI keyboard, but it's little on and off switches, and it sends messages to your computer to trigger samples, right? So I sometimes take either their samples or I make my own. Whoa, the whole place is falling apart. So let's blow this up, and I'm going to get a better kick drum in this particular case. I normally wouldn't do that, but Roger's cool, and he wants his track to sound good, so I'm going to replace his kick drum with mine. That's his. Let me mute his kick drum. So what I've done here is I've taken, let's do a 4-bar loop. I've taken my kick drum. Just nothing special about the kick drum, just something I like. It has a little bit of definition to it. Now I put EQ on this. Let me take the EQ off. I'm going to show you what I did with the EQ to make this pop a little bit. Here's our kick drum. Okay, let me copy this. Let me flatten this out. So, we've got a kick drum coming in here. It's a sample. I'm looking at my VU meter on the lower left side over here. I'm going to pull over the mixer. The track is highlighted. There's not a lot of dynamics. It's really not turning red or anything, so we're pretty safe with this. I don't have to worry about this going into the red. I'm going to add some frequencies. Well, what's a kick drum? It's low. Let's go grab some low frequency. Did you hear that get heavy in your headphones? It also got louder because I'm putting, this is volume. I'm adding more volume. So I'm going to bring that fader down just a little bit. Now, kick drum has what we used to call a point. I'm going to narrow that. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. And I'm going to turn that on. You guys hear the difference, right? So that's just going to pump that kick just a little bit better. I'm going to grab this. Now, if you notice, I have 5 here and not 4 for a good reason. I want to make a 4-bar loop just in case I have an extra thing in here. I'm going to grab all 5 bars of this. I'm going to right click and tell this to bounce it in place. I'm going to call this main kick. And Logic is going to put it on a new track. Yeah, very big difference. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of it. I normally don't get rid of this previous track. The only reason I'm getting rid of the previous track so you guys can see what's going on easier. I normally keep a previous track until I know it's okay. But for purposes of clarity, I'm going to get rid of the track. It's letting me know that there's something in there. It's not a mistake. I do want you to do that. Okay, here's our kick. Now, you can either take the end of this and make it 4 bars. Sometimes the software doesn't get it so great. What I like to do, and this is a personal touch, I put this on bar 2. My cursor, I don't know if you could see it, turned into a scissor, from an arrow to a scissor. And I'm just going to click it right on that bar and get rid of that extra. Okay, now we can take this and loop it over and over and over again. Now, in Roger's case, we have to follow the previous drum because he has an arrangement and we don't want to screw with his arrangement. Let's find his drums. I know this seems like a lot, but I promise you it really isn't. Mixing is a labor of love, and you just got to get it done. So I'm going to unmute his track here. It's the brown track. You see about halfway through the waveform stops, so we're just going to take this in Logic. You can do this in other programs, and we're going to stop it right about the same place. We can always zoom in. And then it picks up again. I'm going to take this and make a copy of it and drag this over here. And it stops again somewhere over here. And now we're following his arrangement, not changing how he wrote the song. All right, so I'm gonna mute. Let's do vocals and his kick, vocals my kick. You already know it'll sound better. Not because I'm any better, I'm just doing it a different way.
Lifted, I get lifted, I get lifted every time.
What did I do here? I muted the wrong thing. Okay.
Lifted,
That's his.
I get lifted every time. When the music's on my mind, I get lifted, I get lifted, I get lifted every time.
Why did I choose this drum sound over the previous drum sound? This is important when you're doing dance music. Kick is just supposed to be a pumping low thing that kind of hits you if you're in a club or in headphones. But listen to the sound quality difference of this kick.
Lifted, I get
It's got a little noise in the background over there, and it's not very deep. It's deep, but it doesn't have that sub bass. And that's important because it'll kick in the club. The low one will kick in the club, but his right here is a good sample, but it's not low, low, low. So it's got like sort of a mid-low to it. That can interfere with your bass line if you want to define your bass line. So by choosing this kick, first of all, it's not in stereo. It has that low pump and that little peak, that mid-range peak that lets that pop through the mix. So if your ear wants to find the kick drum because it's lost, it can find the kick drum. Your kick drum in this particular dance music is your metronome, right? In house music is a metronome. So when things go down to acapellas, you know, you always go to the kick. Oh, there's the beat. Oh yeah, there's the music. All right, it's cleaner, but it doesn't have frequencies that are going to screw with the bass. Let me pull the bass up next to the kick, and we can listen to the two together. I'm going to use his first, and then this cleaner one. So let's get some levels. This lets, even though the bass is very round and not defined, it's taken a lot of the mid-low frequencies out so we can actually hear the bass line, right? I'll go back to his for a second. This sounds a little muddier to my ear. Yes, it does make it easier for a DJ. It not only makes it easier for a DJ, but it makes it easier for a listener. The DJ can find a kick when he's listening in a noisy club because there's a low end, but there's always that point on there if you're doing a dance mix, but also a listener. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take out his kick. We haven't really done any EQ or stuff with the bass yet. I'm going to mute his bass. Let's go to his claps. Hey, Roger, so you didn't do anything wrong. It's just with experience and you kind of get to know your sample library, and that's something Are you using a fine brush or a wide brush? Are you using a red color or a blue color? That just comes with, you know, experience in doing this for a while, because you're going to do a mix with that kick and you're going to go, like Roger said, help me with my mix, it's not sounding great. You'll begin to learn these little things by accident or watching me or other people on YouTube. Oh, wow, if I did that, it might be a little cleaner. I'm trying to get stuff tight and clean so you can have many things hitting your ear that are defined rather than, you know, I want these points to hit your ear rather than blobs to hit your ear, because you can make out all these little things happening at the same time, which is music. It's all these counter things like clockwork happening in your ear. But if it's blurry, it's just going to be mushy. Okay. Here's his claps. His claps are great. Nothing wrong with it. Right? These are good. I went in, and Roger, I'm fucking up your track, right? I went in, I thought, now as a mixer I shouldn't do this, but I thought I'm going to add a little hi-hat and claps as one track. And it has a little in here. There's a little in there. That adds to these house kind of tracks, which I personally love. It's okay. It's a me mix in 25 years. That's okay. You're not doing anything wrong, Roger. This is way better than a lot of people. Trust me. You're doing good. So I'm just modernizing this and bringing this up a little bit. All right, it's starting to have a little bit of a feel to it. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of his old tracks. Let me see. I have drums with hat and claps. Let me bring this up here. Let me see, what is this? I don't know if it's something he put in. Let's fade it in and see if it works. Okay, that works. This is without it. So that's actually something that you can now play with and drop in. Like I'll show you here in the beginning of the track. Where's the vocal start? Let's get the vocals up. I'm reading your notes, guys. Yeah, it's cool learning about this, listening in, huh? It's kind of cool. All right, so I'm just going to do the vocals and the drum tracks. You could start your mix like this. Right? Now, the track that I have highlighted, his drums are going to come in with that. You'll hear a difference in the drums when the vocal starts. Our vocal starts there. I'm going to take out the drums. We're putting a little bit of dynamics in here. I'm acting like a remixer. I'm just showing you this stuff, guys. This is stuff you could do for your mixes. Listen to her vocal. This pea soup hi-hat's going to come in. That and then it's going to drop out when her vocal starts. We have to find the right exact position in here when her vocal starts. I'm building some dynamics into the mix so it's just not flat. All right? Let's see, our vocal starts in here somewhere. So do you see in here how it went from a hi-hat fuller and it suddenly dropped down? I can't help myself, I know. I'm a producer. This shit drives me crazy. I gotta get in there and I gotta make it right. So you want to keep choruses and parts where there's a lot of vocals going. You want to fill that out. And then you want to bring the focus down to the vocal again during a verse. Watch it drop. Right? And I'll carry this over a little further, and we'll find out where that chorus starts again. I think by the waveform, somewhere around. Well, let's find it. So you hear there's a chorus in there, all of a sudden that hi-hat comes in. It's a very subtle thing. It doesn't crowd up your mix like a keyboard, and it gets lifted. It takes that chorus, which is what she's singing about, and it lifts it up. Okay, now we can go in there and well, while I'm on this, let me just get this even so the mix is there. This is the part of listening to this shit that'll you gotta stick with me for a couple of seconds while I make a couple of edits here. So I'm gonna have that pea soup hi-hat only under the vocal chorus, and then it's gonna drop off again during a verse. Okay, so you see I'm taking it out. So this is just going to help the arrangement and help the song move along. All this back here is only choruses repeated. There's not another verse, so we could leave this piece of extra little lifted drum, we'll call it right now, right in there. This will make a big difference. We'll A-B this mix to the original mix, and there's suddenly going to be dynamics. The problem with this mix is it was very flat, and he was using the background vocals to get variety and lift. We're now using some of the percussion with the background vocals to get variety and lift to add more dynamics in there. Okay, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to take this down a little bit. So there we go. Actually, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to wait for the vocal. This is a break. And now vocal's going to come in and so are the hats. That's a verse. Rock out with your cock out, right? All right, we need a bass line. Even though there is a little bass line in there, it's his bass line. I got to go with it because I'm the mixer. Yeah, right? Isn't this great? Yeah, I dance to it. Let me tell you something. If you're not dancing to what you're doing and you're doing a dance record, you got a problem, all right? You may want to bring all your faders down and push that kick drum up. And if that's suddenly making you move, your foot's tapping or you're dancing, you're getting the groove going, right? Now I need to be a little, just, a little funky in it. Bring the bass up. If it's getting too loud, bring all your faders down evenly. I'll show you how to do that real fast. So how do you bring all your faders down? This is your mixing board. This very last one is our output. We don't want to choose that. We want to choose everything else but that. And watch the faders when I bring them down. See, they all move in proper ratio to each other. So that's a little trick to bring all your faders down. You could bring it down a little more, and that'll give you some more headroom. All right. Let's get that bass line happening. Let's solo it. Let's solo his bass line, and let's figure out what we can do. Sometimes you could fix bass lines. Sometimes the only things you could do is add echo or give it a space so it's something different than it is. Let's take a listen to his bass line. Okay, this is a very heavy bass line. Nothing wrong with it. So on bass lines, we can try a compressor, see if that's good. Sometimes compressors will destroy basses. Let's go into guitars, because that's what it is. Bass heavy. Let's see what this does. We can either use it or not use it. It definitely smooths it out. If you look at my output gain, it's not that loud, but in this particular case, because of bass, I'm going to keep it. I can make the output louder here. That's not bad. This has a limiter over here on the right side. I'm going to use it in this particular case. No, actually, we don't even need it. Never mind. Never mind. Okay. So, if you're listening what I'm listening, there's a bit of low-end rumbling in there. It's got a point to the bass, and it's a little blurry down at the bottom end. Let's start shaping with the EQ if we can get a more defined bass so it sits in our mix and doesn't obliterate the kick drum. Best way to do this is usually with the kick drum running, so I'm going to put that in. That's a lot of bass. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to bring the bass down because we're going to be adding some volume. Now, you could just grab shit and try to figure out, no, it's not your headphones, it's the bass. It's either the way it was recorded with a little distortion. If it's a bass sample or a loop, it's got a low end in it. Well, if it is your headphones, it shouldn't be doing that to your headphones because it's doing it to everybody's headphones, and you don't want that to happen. You want it to be clean and clear and present. So let's grab, before I grab the low end of the bass, let's grab some mid-range. Now, how could bass have mid-range if it's in a low frequency? Harmonics are frequencies that are built on top of, like there's bass fundamental frequency and there's harmonics. This will change the sound of it. What frequency to choose? You can script. You might find something interesting. I kind of like that. It makes that bam, bam, bam stick out. Okay, and let's go grab a low frequency here. This is without it. That might be a little too much. We have to listen to it against the vocals. Remember, when you're EQing and you're adding stuff like this is actually adding a note. These are harmonics and these are notes. That harmonic may not work with your vocals. You don't have to study music to figure that out. You just need to listen to your vocal and see if it's fucking with your vocal. I'm gonna take the EQ out. Hey, IZ2K7, if you just got home from work and you're looking at this, this will repeat. Once we finish with this live broadcast, it's going to go up on YouTube. They archive it and you can watch it from the beginning. Hi, how are you doing? We're taking a mix from Roger Hicks that he sent me, and we're cleaning it up and trying to make it sound better. His mix was a little flat and he was having trouble. So we've done the drums and the vocals, and we did something called normalization. You'll be able to get back on that through the rewind and see what's going on. Okay, well, we can actually save your deep bass. There's nothing wrong with your bass, dude. Nothing wrong with your bass, right? We can save that deep bass by making a second copy of it. So if we want to preserve that bass line during the bass and not have the EQ, I can cut it over here. Well, actually, I'm going to make a copy of this, make an exact copy of what we did. I'm going to drag this down to here. And the break comes in here. So we're going to get rid of everything before the break. And we'll get everything after the break. And we're going to do the opposite on the top part. And there. And now, this lower track, we're going to take out the channel EQ over here. This may or may not work in the mix, but we now have the same bass line on two channels. It's going to... So that's the same bass line without the EQ. There's something going on here because you changed the pattern of the bass line, which is cool, but I now have to adjust the EQ on your original track to make it work in here. Ah, I know what it is. We added this track and it's messing with it. Hold on a second. Let's see if I could just get that track in here. We need to take out this. That little it's messing with the bass line. Okay, so we got rid of that, and now it's no longer messing with his bass line. All right. See how that sounds a little better? It was sounding a little weird in there. So that was a perfect example. When you have frequencies and ranges, the low end, the bass, is getting in the way of that little blue, but he's got a defined bass line that's trying to lay down a groove. That blue was making it a mess. We just took that low end out because we're really more interested in the clap and the hi-hat than that little blah, right? In this particular case. Sometimes that's a signature to a song, and then you either have to change your bass line sound or your bass line pattern if that little blah was critically important for this song. All right. Let's move to another track, and then we're going to add some effects. So we got our vocals. Let's get this out of here. Okay, we got a lot of background vocals. Lots of background vocals. So let me go in and unmute it. He's got a lot of effects going on. Everything in pink is our background vocals. So we got a lot of stuff happening. I'm going to try to match up similar vocals by waveform. Okay. Let me just get rid of this. Okay. Actually, before we get to background vocals, I want to get the keyboards because I like to put the vocals at the end on top, like layer, like sit it on top like a cherry on top of an ice cream cake. So there's our bass. This green track is our keyboard. Let's get in here and hear what the keyboard is, and then figure out what we can do for it. You always have to listen. You always have to stand back from your mix and pretend that you've never heard it before. And you want to listen and constantly say, oh, I know that's my favorite guitar part. That's my favorite bass line. You got to put all that shit away in your head when you're mixing. You do that when you're arranging. You do that when you're composing. But now when you're mixing, pretend I didn't even write this track. What does this need? I'm not feeling it. It needs drums. There's no groove. I need the bass. Okay, we have a keyboard part coming in. Is it going to interfere with our vocals, which are really cool? Our vocals in this particular case are delivering a message. Let's hear what he's got. Okay. I get the idea here. It's like it's almost, it's almost like a house organ, but a lot cooler. And it's a low res sample, which is cool. But I can tell you now from past experience that low res sample has a high end crunch to it. And I'm going to accent it. Well, Roger, what's the reason? Help me help you. What's the reason you have the crunch on it? I'm going to accent that crunch so people can hear it. If that's intentional, I'm cool with it. I got to make it work in your track because these frequencies up here are going to interfere, Roger, with your with the hi-hat. Let's see if I get the hi-hats going. Okay. Do you absolutely? If you want that in there, I can keep this high-end. I'm not changing the track, the keyboard. I want to shape it so that so this part. That's not interfering with hi-hats and vocals, so I want to keep your track. Roger, I'm going to play it two different ways. This is without it. That's with it. Oh, the bass line. I see. Okay. Roger, did I mess up your bass line? See, now this is good that this conversation is going on because, I remix, so I get in there, but I don't want to. If Roger has a very particular feel. You don't want to fuck with an artist's sound. So if that bass line is a thing that may be a signature sound, I don't know Roger's music, but if this is something he does in everything that he records, okay, great, good. But that may be a type of sound that made an artist famous. It could be a bass line sound or something. You really don't want to mess with it unless you either know the artist or they trust you and you're doing a mix. Anybody can mix this stuff, and different engineers are going to give you different results. There's no right way to mix any of this stuff. It's your ears. So I'm just going on my experience. Okay, on this particular track, I do want to take out some of this stuff up here. I want to make that more of a house thing. Thank you, Thomas. So I'm now going to do my first reverb. I do not put reverbs on individual tracks. Let me get the mixer up and running. I created something called a bus. All software has it. They're sometimes called sends. This blue, I can't make this any bigger. Well, I can only make it a little bit wider. This blue thing that I just added here is a bus. I'm sending it to bus 1 and it's coming up on auxiliary 1, which is over here. So whatever I send in this little volume knob is going to come up on this track here. If you watch the VU meter on the track, watch what happens. Play. So the music from here is now coming up on this highlighted track to the right. I'm going to take the volume down to the send. I'm going to bring the volume up on the send. Obviously it's a little louder because we're doubling the frequency, we're doubling the volume. Here's where I put my reverbs. And this is a big thing that I mentioned before. When your ear listens to what you're doing, you're listening in some sort of environment. It could be a room, it could be a stadium, it could be a theater, it could be a hall, it could be a club, and you want to emulate that space. If your vocals are in outer space and your drums are in a closet and your bass line's in a church, and with these reverbs, you're confusing the listener's ear. I try to keep my reverbs down to 2 or 3. A short reverb for percussion and a longer reverb for vocals. And then sometimes I'll add a special effects reverb so something could, go forever. So in this particular case, I'm going to add a short reverb. Now, there are reverbs everywhere, all kinds of different reverbs. I'm going to use my Slate Digital because I like this, but you can use any reverb that you want. Let me open it. So what this does, I pay $14 a month for Slate to a company called Slate, and it's Slate Digital. You can go to their website. It's in a previous broadcast that we did. This emulates old reverbs from big studios that the Rolling Stones and Michael Jackson, everybody used. What they do is they sample them, and then there's a little algorithm in here that takes the sample and emulates this piece of equipment. So I don't have $4,000 to spend for a big Lexicon 480, 440, but this piece of software plug-in will emulate many different kinds of reverb units. And they're down here. You don't need to know about this stuff right now. When I get to the break, you can listen to what I did before you're changing it. Okay, we'll definitely do that. We'll go up to your break and we'll see what's going on there. I'm not changing your arrangement. I'm just changing your EQ. But we'll definitely go and listen to that, Roger. I hear you. Okay, so we're going to send this. We're going to go for a room. I'm going to take the decay time down on this. Let's send this to the reverb. Now, I actually want a bigger reverb for this sound. So that's our short reverb. We're going to leave that. I'm going to add another bus that's going to send the sound to another reverb. It's going to come up here. I'm adding another reverb. This one's going to be a lot longer. I know it looks the same. It's another instance of the reverb. I actually have 2 reverbs running right now. Let me open the other one. This is our short reverb on the left. On the right is our longer reverb. Let me go into the pre-made reverbs. Where's the presets on this damn thing? Oh, here we go. Okay, and I'm going to go to miscellaneous Dodge Cathedral. How about that? That sounds good. This is going to be a long reverb. I want to get that clubby kind of distant sound. is the reverb, maybe a little too much. We won't be able to tell until we get everything in here. But our drums are in our face. This track's going to be back a little further. I'm not adding any delays or anything onto this because I'm not remixing, I'm only mixing. Let me play it without the reverb. Just giving it a little ambience, little space, making it stand out to your ear. All right, I think we're cool with that track. Next we have is lots of vocals. And I'm following his arrangement. So, for starters, this looks like a vocal that's just going on all the time. Roger, I got a question for you. Did you do any muting of vocals on your side that's different than the tracks that you sent me? In other words, this lifted vocal effects in pink is running along the whole thing. Is that intentional, or were you turning off tracks off and on to have these parts come in and out? If that's the case, it's going to be hard to follow what you did. I would need the vocals coming in and out where you want it. In other words, I can't figure out if this is the arrangement. So if you could let me know. Because this pink vocal track, I'm gonna pull it in. I know you made a background check MP3, but is it supposed to run the whole time, even under her lead vocal? Or does this only come in certain sections? Because if it does, I don't know where that is. Right now, it's running all the time. We're looking at the arrangement. The red is her lead vocal. The pink is the lifted with effects. Cool. Yes, it's supposed to run the whole time. Okay, then we'll work with it. There's no wrong way or no right way to do any of this. That's really important, folks. It's his arrangement, and this is his song and his idea. We don't change that in any way. We work with it. Okay, so we have a lead vocal and the effects coming in. Now, let's get a chunk of that happening. I'm going to turn off the keyboard for a second. If you heard that, maybe we can find a trace, that little part was a little low now that our volumes are high. So I'm going to bring the threshold of the compressor and the ratio up a little higher. This is stuff you may not be able to understand right now, but that little part of vocal that was a little quiet. Actually, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to show you something else. This is something, does not come with Logic, but I paid for. So in Waves Audio, there's something called the vocal rider. In the old days, we had a vocal, we would ride the vocal with our finger as the person was singing it, and we would try to act like a compressor as a human being and bring it up and down. This module that I just opened up is a plugin from Waves. I don't know what these run, $50 or $100. And what it's going to do, you'll see it running underneath the lead vocal. It's going to be a little fader, and this fader is going to, instead of me moving it, the software is going to move it.
leaving all my cares behind. When the world is going through changes.
So it's doing this for me. So I'm going to set this so it doesn't change the volume much, and it's going to keep. It's almost acting like a compressor. It's bringing the soft and the loud. It's not going to move the fader as much. On the left side, there's two little knobs here that I'm pulling up and down. I don't want the range to be this high. I'm going to limit the range. It's almost like acting like a compressor, but to my ear, it's a little softer and sweeter.
Lifted, I get lifted, I get lifted every time. When the music's on my mind, I get lifted, I get lifted, I get lifted every time, leaving all my cares behind. When the world is going through changes, and there's nothing left to embrace, open your mind to understanding, and maybe we can find a trace of peace, tranquility.
Maybe we can find a trace. Is now a little louder and you can hear it. Because if you start losing words out of lead vocals, you're going to start losing your listener. Maybe not consciously, but subconsciously. Nobody listens to lyrics the first time around. We listen to beats. But in the back of your head, there's a clock running. It listens to the beats and it listens to the lyrics. You stop communicating with somebody, it doesn't work. So right away, I want to now add onto the lead vocal, we have our two sends, bus 1 and bus 2. Bus 1 is a short reverb and bus 2 is a long reverb. I want to add a little reverb to this to sweeten it up. Okay, in here, I hear you, Roger. I don't know what you're listening on. The pink track, I got you, right. Okay, I hear you. All right. That's not a metronome. So let's find out what that is. That's probably that point in the kick drum. Right there. Okay. It's in the hi-hat sample. So we could find that click. if we, that click is sounding like a metronome. We could do one or two things at this. Yeah, no, that's not sorry. It's something that could drive you or me or somebody crazy. So we could do one or two things. We can take this hi-hat out and find a substitute hi-hat that's just a kick and a snare. You know what I mean? Let me take this down. No, you're not in pain at all. This is not a pain. This is why we mix. I'm not paying attention to that yet because we have a whole bunch of vocals down here to work on, but it could be something. No, I'm a sound guy too. This is stuff that we need to listen to. This is important. In this particular case, let's make 2 audio tracks, and we're going to try to find a hi-hat and a clap to fix this. So I'm going to go into my sample library, put the word clap, and I'm going to figure out, let's find if we could fix this. Well, these are. All right, let's pull in some hand claps. We're trying to get rid of that weird sound, so let's take a little loop. Once we get this happening, let's do it like that. We got to blow this up a little bit. That's important. We're gonna clean this up, right? So the claps happen on the 2 bar. Clap right there. Let me listen to something. We're gonna try to emulate the claps from there. There's not enough claps here. So what we can do with that is slice this, get rid of that clap that we don't need. We're going to bring this down to, well, I like slicing instead of looping. And now we can clap, get it away. Now I know that isn't lined up, and we're going to line that up just right now to make this work. It's a slightly different sounding clap. I'm showing you guys a workaround when you have a situation like this, and you're absolutely right about this. Let's line the clap up at the beginning of the track. I'm going to cut off the extra shit here. We always want our claps to be on time, and let's go to the end of this and extend this to the end right here. I'm going to cut it and then we're going to loop it. Okay, now I know that clap is exactly 2 bars long, and 20 beats down the line it's not going to fall out of sync because it wasn't exact. So let's go ahead and loop this. Ah, it started to make right. It's on the 2 bar. Where are we? First of all, if I put this at, there we go. There. 2, and then this one has to be. See how much fun this is, guys? All right, there we go. Let's line this up at bar, right on the bar. Okay, let's take that out, and everywhere where that other clap was, we're going to put this back in, and now we have to EQ whatever we did here to match. So this is what you do when you find yourself in a situation, oh, I love that piece, oh, it's starting to really interfere, like a weird metronome clicking, and we don't want that. So let's get this track, mute this one. claps need help. Let's put a compressor on there. I'm moving a little faster, you guys. Okay, and let's change the sound of it a little bit. And I'll show you something else. There's something you can use called a transient master thing. I'll show you that. For my ear, there's too much noise in this, so I'm going to add a transient shaper in here. I got to find it. It'll take me a second, but what this does, it's kind of like putting an envelope after the fact. I forgot which one I use. I got so much shit in here. I use the isotope one. I got a couple of plugins, huh, guys? Okay. There's too much noise for my ear in this. Yeah, let's get addicted to the channel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of that. You know, it's a sample. What the hell can you do? I can load it up in a sampler, but this is a lot easier way. I'm going to take some of the decay off of the clap. So there's only so much I could do, but here's without it. And this will tighten it up. It just it made that clap a little bit tighter. Now, I can actually also go in here. Well, we're going to line those claps up. They're out of sync, but we're going to get that all happening. I can also put a noise gate on this. In dynamics noise gate, and try to get the gate to close. This is like a little door that's going to open and close and let the sound out. Wait a minute, what's going on here? Noise gate, claps, solo. We got too much volume coming into the gate. Remember I said before, when you're sending too much information into a next module, I'm going to bring this down so that gate closes. Why is this gate not working? What am I doing wrong? Okay, we're on these claps. In here is a noise gate. I have the noise gate on. All right, this is where you watch me lose my friggin' mind because I don't understand why the noise gate isn't noise gating. There we go. You hear how we changed the gate? This is without it. That's what we had. This is what we're shaping it into. I know that sounds a little tight. We could find a happy medium. And let's see what that sounds in the track better. These are out of sync because of my loop. Let me go in there and change this loop. Okay, let me show you something, guys. If you could see this, stuff like this happens a lot and it drives me nuts. The actual bar line is here. I'm going to see if I can blow this up even more so you can see this. This is like so crazy at this magnitude. Maybe I can make it even a little bigger and it's easier for you guys to see. Let me go back over one notch. One notch. Oh man, trying to get this perfectly on screen for you guys. A little more. There we go. Okay, so there, the vertical white line is the downbeat. But look, that clap is starting a little before. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to move this up to the line. Now it's perfectly on the beat and all the loops behind it are now going to be in sync. I just fixed that. You could do that in your DAW, right? So it's like two lights that are flashing, right? Eventually they're going to go out of sync, and that's what's happening here because the loop isn't perfectly on the downbeat. Now I've got that happening, and we're back in sync again. There's also, Logic has something called elastic audio, and that elastic audio will fix it automatically, but not all samplers have it, so I didn't want to go that route. What's my go-to sampler is, I use Contact, because I have a lot of libraries. Okay, so let's give the claps a little bit of space here. We're going to put it, and we need that back hi-hat still. We need that hi-hat to take place of the hi-hat that was here. So let's go put in the hat. Let's see, we need what we used to call a pea soup hi-hat. These are beads, so I'm trying to find hats. That's Monkey. That's one of my dogs. I got a white dog too. He's licking my freshly shaved haircut. Monkey, I love you. Say hello. Look, look. Say hello. Yeah, he's trying to say hello. He sits over here on a pillow on the side and wants to hang out with me. Here we have a hi-hat. This is a possibility. Remember, we're just looking for hats. That's another one. I think they say professional on them. These are MDR. They're so worn out. Put my granny glasses on. These are Sony Professional MDR 7506. Every couple of years they change them. These things are so old, I don't know if this model is available anymore. But any of the Sony Professionals are great. You usually get them at like a Sam Ash instead of, you know, like a Best Buy. You can go to Sam Ash Guitar Center or even Amazon. If I had a little more time, I would make a hi-hat. Let's grab one of these. You could be here all day with this. Here's a backbeat hi-hat. Let's throw this in and we're going to work with that. And we're going to loop that fucker. This is in stereo. It should be in mono. Add a little sweetness to this. Got a little look. Much cleaner, much nicer. Thank you for pointing out that. I got to take my other dog to the vet in an hour, so I'm into it too. These things could be hours. I'm trying not to make this be hours. So we got a cleaner hi-hat and a cleaner hand clap. I might shove the hi-hat slightly off of center. Okay. So he's got an arrangement here, so we have to then, I'm following his hi-hat arrangement. We got to take these hand claps and bring this over here to follow the ones that we had over here, which is his arrangement. And let's bring the loop back down to stop when he stopped. And now we can get rid of this track that has all that clicking sound on it. And save. Okay. Next thing up is vocals, background vocals, and a breakdown. Oh, the hand claps are going to drive me crazy today. I see what it's time to make Mr. Man crazy. What is going on? You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to do it this way. I'm going to copy and paste this. I'm going to do it the long, instead of shorthand, I'm going to do it the longhand, no pun intended. This will guarantee that my claps are going to be in sync. Logic did an upgrade, and I don't understand why stuff is screwed up. Apple is famous for doing some screwy things and taking a while to fix it, especially with pro audio stuff like this. This is sort of like something they inherited a long time ago, and they don't really stay on top of it like they should. All right. I will. I promise to listen to your break before we change anything. I just want to get the basic rhythms in here, Roger. I promise you. We will not change anything. I just want to get the basic foundation of this happening so you have a good sounding foundation. I'm just building parts that you have, but I'm making them sound better. All right? I'm not changing your arrangement. I'm not changing anything. Swear and promise. To my mama. This will ensure that these claps stay in frickin' sync. Let's get these claps all the way up to the break. We'll go back and we'll listen to his arrangement and match it. I'm just trying to get stuff in here. Okay, oops. Now we got a piece, now we got to deal with the after break. Let's shut down the loops. Everybody thinks mixing is easy. You just push a button and you make a song. So for those of you that are don't make music, that may be listening or watching, this is what us guys have to go through. So when record companies rip us off, and this is only one song, try to do an album, when record companies rip us off, this is our work. This is all the blood, sweat, and tears that we put into it. When music streaming pays us 0.025 cents and we've done all this work, now you got an idea why a lot of people are not happy or leave the music business, because, hey, we've been on this for 2 hours and 12 minutes and we haven't even finished yet, right? Okay, we got some background vocals here, so let's move up to the break part. We're not mixing levels yet, but we're getting close. I like the new legislation, but it has to fall somewhere. It's not a, yeah, maybe we should do, maybe we should do a part 2 on this. Or I could just continue the mix and show you an after part, because this is 2 hours. It's getting long for everybody. Listen, I do 8-hour, 10-hour sessions, but for you guys watching it, it's a little hard, and I understand. Why don't we do a part 2? Let's all listen to his break. I'm gonna solo his old track. And let's listen to his break over here. Okay, I'm going to have to make that. This is his part. This is his version. That's the A-B. Let me go ahead and save this. You guys have been awesome. I think what I need to do on my own is then go study his break and then get these background vocals happening and lay all this stuff in. And Roger could it's his song, so if he wants to post it up on SoundCloud or on his page, he could do that, and you guys can hear the final mix. But there's just some basics of mixing for those of you that are listening in that have never mixed before or not musicians. This is what we go through. This is the work process of this, right? And I don't want to change his mix or change his arrangements. I have to go back in there and listen to what he did and cut up pieces of audio and make it sound similar to what it is. Thank you so much, guys, for doing this. I normally do this on Sundays at noon. I have to be somewhere tomorrow at noon, so it's today. And I'm trying to get some people. I got Steve Bronski. I'm trying to get Trevor Horn. I'm trying to get the guys from the B-52s to do interviews. And they're going to tell you how they do, their process of music. So not only me, but different people work different ways, so we could get different people in and show you how this shit is done. It's been 2.5 hours. Thank you, guys. All right. Thank you so much. And you definitely want to, check in every once in a while. Please subscribe so you know what's, when I'm doing new stuff. Thank you, Roger Hicks.